On is cash no longer the king? Are mobile payments accelerating? So about how there will be discussion about the tussle in between cash and mobile. And as a moderator, we have Mr. Rajesh Dudu, Senior Vice President of Market Development of Quattro Processing Services. So if we have all the speakers here, Gaurav, can I invite them on stage? Okay. Mr. Prashant is not here. Please ask him. Okay. So I request Mr. Rajesh to please join us on stage. A round of applause for the session moderator, Mr. Rajesh from Quattro Processing Services. He's into market development. He's a senior VP. And I invite Mr. George Verghese, another senior VP of another important company, Vsoft Technologies. A round of applause for Mr. George Verghese, please. Mr. Ranjit Oak, President and Chief Operating Officer of My Mobile Payments Limited, Money on Mobile, a dynamic company spreading its wings so rapidly into the payment market, wallet market, BNE. Mr. KP Saha, a young dynamic entrepreneur, Managing Director of Sunraiser Technologies. A round of applause for Mr. Saha, please. Mr. Vaibhav Joshi, a Senior Vice President of Digital Banking in Yes Bank Limited, a major bank in private sector. Mr. Rajneesh Khare, Head of Digital Transformation, Social Business, New Media and Mobility Banking of HDFC Bank. Is he here? Oh, he couldn't join us. And last but not the least, the key in all the payments and key in today's banking scenario, UIDI, Aadhaar. Mr. Prashant P. Singh, Assistant Director General of UIDI, Government of India is with us. A round of applause for Mr. Singh, please. So now over to you, Mr. Rajesh, 45 minutes of panel discussion from here. Thank you.
Is it on? Is it on? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this panel discussion. Before we start the discussion, I just wanted to, take you on a journey in a time machine. So in this time machine, we make a journey and we make our first halt. And when at the halt, we go to a particular shop. I was told that the shop still exists in future because that's the only place where people like to interact and smile at each other. So we make a stop at this particular shop, then we collect everything, and then my companion is ready to leave the shop. Then I ask him, what about payment? The person says, it's done. I ask him again, how is it done? He says, I smiled and the payment has been done. So then I ask him, have you tried anything before, anything other than smiling? Then he says, I frowned once and my payment got declined. Okay, so what I'm going to tell you is the payments have become invisible. Today, payments are becoming invisible when we make those payments through app. And then we go on this journey further. We go into future in this particular time machine. And then we go into a store where there is no one. And when we go into the store, my companion says hello, and we get access into the store. The person collects everything, and we just walk out. Then being curious, I ask him again, what about the payment? He says, what is payment? I was set up with a company that manages my income and expenditure. As long as they are in balance, they're taken care of. Sounds very futuristic. I may say that I'm playing the role of a Nostradamus. Some of you may say that I'm dreaming, and some of you who would like to be direct may say that I'm daydreaming. So let's come back from the time machine. Let's come to the current scenario. And in the current scenario, if we look at the current scenario, the digital rails for making digital payments seem to be very well established. And if I look at certain numbers, Earlier speakers have spoken about the JAM Trinity, Jan Dhan Yojana, Aadhaar, mobile. In addition to that, there's another movement that is happening, and that movement is called as SMAC. Not to be confused with the other SMAC, that's a forbidden stuff. So let's look at this SMAC, which is equally contagious, which is equally infectious. It is social, mobile, analytic, and cloud. So at one end, JAM, and the other end, SMAC, they're driving both supply as well as demand in the digital ecosystem. While it is happening, let's look at some data. So 1.3 billion people, 900 million mobile connections, 25% smartphones, 600 million debit cards, 25 million credit cards. Everything seems to point to a fantastic landscape for digital payments. But when I look at the data, it's only about 3% of transactions are digitized today. 97% of transactions are still in cash. So cash is still the king. And in addition to that, only 6% of the merchants accept payments at the POS devices. So something seems to work at counter purpose to what we want to expect or what we want to see. So given this, I would like to throw upon a question, or rather place a question to the members of the panel in terms of what do they think, what are the various use cases that will drive people to move away from cash to digital. And before that, there's another data point I would like to offer to you all. An associate of mine at Visa, which is the global card network, is very popular these days on LinkedIn for his cashless journey. Today is his 76th cashless journey. And when I had a chat with him prior to this session, he told me that in the top 10 cities in India, 97% of the transactions can be done without cash, but it is not happening. So with that data point, I would like to invite upon each member of the panel to share their views as to what is the use case which makes cash to dislodge its place as a king. I would rather call it as an emperor in the current times, not the king. Dislodge its place as an emperor and then give that place to digital payments. Maybe we can start with Vaibhav and then...
Thanks a lot. Good morning, everybody. Vaibhav Joshi from Yes Bank. So, elaborating on what you said, rather I would like to continue and take the baton from where you were. So, let's get into the mindset of these guys. So, when you are saying that 97% of payments can be digitized or is digitized in the top 10 cities, and still 97% of payments happen in cash, let's try and understand the mindset behind these payments. So, what are the major payments that are happening in India today? Okay. Majority of the payments are payments where, I go to shop something and I pay for it, okay, or I am transferring money to somebody and I am paying for it. These are the two standard payments that, typically use cases that we see. Now, when we talk about these use cases, what is the thought process behind these use cases? Okay, let's take the first use case where we are talking about a merchant payment. There used to be times, I remember, when long back, if you would want to make a payment with a credit card, then the merchant would say, boss, 2% extra charge lagega. Okay. Recently, it happened that I went to buy a bicycle for my daughter, and that merchant said, in Thane, in urban Thane, he said that, aapko 2% extra charge lagega. I was surprised that, what is this? Why? Do you know that what you are asking for is not legal or it's not allowed? And he's like, what can I do, sir? I am being charged for this service.
Okay.
Okay. That's one mindset that, I would like to touch upon. And the second mindset is, again, of the similar kind of a merchant who is of the opinion that, while I am collecting payment in cash, there is an aspect which is a taxation aspect, which into quotes, there is some savings happening over there.
That's right.
Okay, and that's a major use case when you go to, the 97 or 96% of India where, the cash is not digitized. So if there were, efforts made to, let's say, sensitize the merchants in terms of either by incentivizing them or by educating them, there is tremendous amount of change management required. Now, how this change management happens, there have been steps which have been taken by the government. There have been steps which have been taken by, various private entities like, Money on Mobile, a partner in crime, we compete in the market. So there are, with private companies, and of course, banks have also taken, initiatives. Some of the very, very recent initiatives, maybe you may not have, heard about. Again, use cases, restricting myself to that is, incentivizing the merchant to accept digital payments by the way of, digital lending to merchants. It's a very fantastic use case, and I would like to dwell upon it in detail, maybe later on in the session. So incentivizing the merchant through the means of digital lending, and taking into consideration the history or the digital transactions that he has incurred or that he has accepted. Use a fantastic use case, doesn't it? Because the merchant who was saying that, boss, I am going to be paying additional tax. For him, you suddenly you turn the coin around and say, boss, there is an incentive like, okay, as an SME, maybe I don't qualify for a certain type of loan, and maybe, as an individual, I don't qualify for a certain type of loan, but I still keep on requiring cash for my day-to-day business. So can this be a, digital payment? Can this be a premise for a working capital lending kind of a scenario?
Understood. So, yeah, thanks, Vaibhav. You bring up on some very interesting points, and also I was looking at a particular study by USAID, and they had said that one of the major deterrent for electronic payments, especially at the merchants in the tier 3 and the tier 4 cities, is primarily because their tax practices are not in favor of accepting the digital payments. So some policy changes have to be made and some structural changes have to be made.
Absolutely.
How about you?
Yeah.
Saha?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. So, just a brief about what we do. Today, we are serving to almost 15 to 20 million customers using our platform or directly servicing as a business correspondent. So, what we have seen, like, I'll just take what Mr. Joshi have said. Like, if you really dreaming or daydreaming what you said for a society which will be totally cashless, so it cannot be a overnight one, right? It has to be on phases. Even today, I myself provide solution, but if I see my father, right, if he need to do a transaction, I hardly have seen him going to even an ATM, leave using net banking or mobile banking. He just get a check, right, send someone to the bank to withdraw the money. So, there is, and this is the story of urban. When you go to the rural, right? India is not only the cities, there is a Bharat. And what you have seen, this Bharat is also not a single Bharat. There are multiple Bharats within the Bharat. So it has to be a long-term perspective. Yes, if we focus on the urban or the metros, cities, top 10 metro, what you have said, like, and since we are also working with a lot of merchants, we have seen, like, it's not that they don't want to make electronic transactions. It's more the factors that is more affecting them to take the decision is the legal aspect, right? Because the small traders or the, I'll rather say the small seller who have the major cash transaction today, right? They are more afraid of the legal technicalities like the income tax or the VAT. I mean, today if you see as a financial or institution who, if there is an electronic transaction, the major benefit that will go to the banks, right? The cost of cash management, cash handling, right? And government as a whole. I mean, today I think it's my suggestion. I was thinking on that area, like, if we can just promote that, like, even their tax consultancy or the services can be taken care by the bank if they come under the electronic. I think that is going to boost them in this domain. I mean, that is another area where the bank can also play a role for their own benefit. And I think that is going to change some, initiative from those traders.
So Vaibhav and Saha, you've spoken more from a perspective of the merchants. Now giving that as a segue to George. George, what do you feel from a user perspective? I mean, merchants are an important element of the overall payment ecosystem. Right. They're from the pull side, but how about from the users from a push side of the payment?
Correct.
Or from the pay side of the payment?
See, when you look at, taking into account, let's say, individuals who are going to be using, different channels rather than cash to make payments, I think there are basically two things that we should consider that. Make the usage of the channel as simple as possible.
Right.
Reduce the complexity in terms of registration. Reduce the complexity in terms of having to have minimum XYZ infrastructure. Even from a mobile phone, like Mr. Hota had said, star 99 hash.
Right.
If you can use simpler technologies like that, that will drive greater usage at the rural area. I'm not even wanting to talk about the urban areas.
Understood.
You take these Jandan accounts that have been opened, this 90 crore accounts, 95 crore accounts. We have very, very small savings over there, right? But those small savings also can be used. They can use that for paying, your electricity bill or your whatever else in the rural areas. That can be done cashless. Why do you have to go and withdraw the cash from the account and
Sure.
go and make such payments?
Sure.
So you make the channel simple to use, make the technology easy, rather than complicated, provide it in languages that they can understand in rather than just
Right.
English and things like that.
Right.
Adoption is definitely bound to be driven to a greater extent.
And in addition to that, I think it's also the awareness level. Again, I was looking at a report, the same report by USAID. They were basically saying that the biggest problem in India is the coexistence of cash and digital. So if you look at the behavioral aspect of a buyer in a tier 3 or a tier 4 city, they had looked at an aspect wherein when the person wants to make a purchase and goes to a merchant can accept card, but they ask the merchant which is the closest ATM. And they go to the ATM, stick the card in the ATM, take the cash out, and pay the merchant. They're more comfortable doing that rather than swiping or dipping their card at the POS terminal.
Even from a merchant perspective, other than the fact that they want to look at tax as a different thing, talking about taxation and other things. One of the reasons why these smaller merchants don't want to get into electronic payments is, first and foremost, I'm getting the cash not right now. I'm getting it 24 hours later or 48
Right.
hours later. That's point
Right.
number one. Point number two is, if there is a conflict and a dispute and reconciliation needs to be done, that may take 15 days, 30 days, 45 days. वो बोलेगा कि आज मुझे cash मिल रहा है, why I have to bother about the
Okay.
technology part of it?
Absolutely.
So I'm charging this extra 2% like he had mentioned, Viber.
Okay.
Saying that, if something does happen, at least I'm covered from an interest
Understood.
perspective.
So you think that if the cost of acceptance is minimized and if there's a solution that helps the merchants to manage their cash flows better, the acceptance rate may go
Will
up at the
definitely go up.
merchant side.
And like you rightly also said, awareness has to be pushed
That's
harder.
correct.
Maybe incentivize such things.
That's
Correct.
Now moving away the focus, moving away from the acceptance of payments both from a merchant and from a user side, if I take the discussion to the next level, which will perfectly fit into the role that Prashant is playing, if you look at the Indian economy today, we spend about 1% of the GDP just to manage the subsidies, the cash subsidies from the government. To save that, the government has introduced the concept of direct benefit transfer to the accounts that are linked to Aadhaar, so that there is no duplication that Mr. Hota was talking about in the previous session. What has been accomplished is, as far as the cash is coming into the account, it has been digitized. But if you look at the usage pattern and the behavioral pattern, most of the people, once the cash arrives into the account, they go withdraw the cash and make the payments in the form of a cash. So while inflow has been digitized, the outflows have not been digitized. So Prashant, would you like to throw some light, share your perspective based on your role, what the government is doing, if I may use the term, to enhance the digital shelf life of the money?
Hello, yeah. Good morning, everybody. You're right, Rajesh, as far as one way, from the institutional side, from the individual departments, the money is flowing now to the bank account directly. Now, what is important that in very efficient and convenient manner, let's say a Manrega worker, a pensioner, living in a far-flung rural area is able to withdraw the money, and as our topic suggests, in cashless manner, as far as possible. For that, it is very important. One very important aspect is the medium. How the money or how the banking is done. Currently, the entire banking in village is centered around BC. It is assisted model. And there, the POS device which are currently being used are, to a certain extent, it is standardized, but we are looking at a era where everything is converging to a smartphone, which we have seen, which has feature of biometric authentication. So once that smartphone is at an affordable price available to all the villagers, and moreover, the literacy, that's very important, that a Manrega worker, or let's say a pensioner or a villager, he should be able to, very easily, we say 1 click, 2 click, 3 click, as we urban people are now used to.
Right.
Similarly, rural India, a villager should be able to very easily use that smartphone without any assistance of, BC. Then only he will be empowered. So first thing is that he should have a device which he is comfortable to use. That, and then using that device, he should be able to use that money which is coming as a subsidy from the government. So that will reduce the lots of in a way cost of transaction also, and convenience to him.
Right.
You need not be needing actually cash then. So all these things is centered around the digital literacy. So when we talk about social inclusion, financial inclusion, similarly we need to do digital inclusion also. And there is a literacy program, government's literacy program is being run by banks, being run by various system integrators who are associated with banks at village levels. In the Skill India, it's one of the prime focus area for the government. So once that confidence comes to the village, to use the device independently, probably the benefit of that DBT will come. Otherwise, they will still be dependent, as George pointed out, that if you have a device which works in English language only, or at most in Hindi language, probably he'll not be comfortable using it. It should work in local vernacular language. If it is Maharashtra, he should have option of using Marathi. Choose Marathi. Understood. And do the transactions in Marathi. Understood. So that he is confident. Understood. So that's what the literacy. Their confidence level, it should be securely, reliably, they should be independently able to use the device, and at the same time affordable price.
Understood. So basically, basically what you're saying is there are 3 attributes that drive this. One is in terms of access to the electronically, access to devices that accept payment electronically in the rural areas. Number 2, you're talking about avenues. So if you have the necessary avenues, then you can enhance the digital life of the money. And third, you're talking about localization. Provide the content in a localized fashion.
Literacy is very important.
And literacy and localization. Absolutely. Bring up very important points. In the previous session, heard about some fascinating stuff about #99, wherein they were talking about collecting the payment. They were talking about keeping the payment or keeping the cash in the digital format for a longer period of time. So would like to would like to ask Ranjit, based on your experience in the mobile space, do you think that a foundation for that has already been laid, or the foundation is going to be laid, and what needs to be done to build on that particular foundation?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. As all of them have said, that I think at the end, the simplicity to the consumer is what counts.
Right.
So a consumer is really not interested at the back end how the technology functions, but he would be more keen to understand that is it simple for me to use. The second problem, or the way that we found out, was that initially everyone is hesitant to adopt to a new method of payment. So there's a lot of education, there's a lot of literacy that is required for me to change a fundamental mindset from using cash to go digital.
Right.
So we adopted a methodology where we went into the assisted mode. A consumer can walk across my 3 lakh retail outlets, and he can use the basic stuff at a very low value, a recharge, a utility bill payment, and now with IMPS we are seeing a lot of traction happening. So I guess, yes, one is the simplicity that plays an important role. The second thing is that the mindset that he needs to change. It's a very predominant mindset that I'm going to use cash and I now need to shift to digital. And that will happen only through education or literacy. And maybe we start with an assisted model where someone helps him to do it. He sees the convenience in it, he sees the simplicity in it, and then he realizes, oh, if he can do it, why can't I do it?
Understood.
So I guess the entire ecosystem also needs to evolve around it. I think primarily when you talk of use cases, I recollect that the 3 main use cases for us where cash would be predominantly used might be a grocery, a pharmacy that is more of a healthcare, or education.
Okay.
So if we have these 3 segments into an ecosystem which are end-to-end digitized, and then if we can, I think, drive this entire factor and have a vehicle of a digital payment that can address these 3 basic needs today that we are facing where cash is predominant, I guess that would be a start for us to take this revolution ahead.
Interesting. So you talk about 2 aspects, basically adoption and adaptation. And it kind of reminds me an interesting experience that happened with me about 15 years ago. An ATM was launched near my house at a petrol pump. I took my mom, put into the ATM kiosk, and she came out in less than few seconds. So she was very, very, very uncomfortable to go into the machine, talk to the machine, and pull out the cash. Now, over a period of time, she's very comfortable doing mobile banking. So it's the transition that needs to happen, and it's a change in the mindset, the adaptation, and adoption as well. Vaibhav, you're the only banker in the panel, so I'm going to put you on spotlight a little more to understand primarily from an end user's perspective. Basically, what has happened is if you look at the adoption of digital payments, everybody on the panel will accept that digital payments, the adoption has increased just because of convenience. If you look at app-based payments, you don't even realize that the payment has been made. And if you look at NFC, near-field communications, you tap and pay. It was convenience that made NFC popular. If there was no convenience, NFC would have been not for commerce, right? So, however, while that drives the adoption of digital for people who have excess of money, if we look at a segment where people do not have access to too much of cash, they have limited inflows and maximum outflows. And there is a segment, again, which needs access to credit. Like, take the example of bKash in Bangladesh, which is the world's largest growing mobile money application. In fact, larger than M-Pesa. And what I was told when I was in Bangladesh, they said that adoption was primarily because of the credit access that bKash has provided. So from an S bank, are you saying S to any of these applications?
Yes, we are saying yes to most of these applications. There are tremendous amount of use cases that we have either piloted or we are piloting right now. But while you quickly delved upon bKash, I would like to quickly touch upon another model which is known as M-Shwari. Okay. So M-Pesa is a fantastic model that started in Kenya, and as an extension of that, they started a lending program which is known as M-Shwari. M-Shwari was a combination of savings plus loan. And, so while we touch upon the point that it is convenience that drives this payment, M-Shwari has a record of a loan turnaround in flat 6 seconds. Okay, it's a digital only kind of a thing. and the lending arrangement or the loan is sanctioned basis, your payment records of M-Pesa. It is so simple. So if you are a M-Pesa user and you have been making regular payments and you have been using M-Pesa to a certain degree, then M-Shwari is available 24/7 to you, and the turnaround is in flat 6 seconds.
Understood.
Okay, so while the banks are closed, while there are government holidays, public holidays, you are in dire need of funds, you are a M-Pesa user, bang it goes. Similarly, Bcash, Bcash started on the USSD concept, same that Mr. Hota was talking about, hash 99 and so on. Now, yes, USSD is one convenience kind of an arrangement, but technology, there are tremendous amount of new technology which has come in. Okay, if we talk from a wallet perspective, and Money on Mobile will agree on me that the way wallets came in India was only from domestic money transfer perspective, where it's a assisted model kind of a transaction. A user would go to a retail shop and there are hundreds of thousands of these shops which are enabled to accept cash and digitize the payment. Understood. Now the next stage is to give an instrument to that user where the user himself can originate the transaction.
Understood.
Okay.
Sorry Vaibhav, sorry to interrupt. So what I was basically saying is, one is in terms of facilitating the payment, in terms of be it inward remittance of the payments and then moving the payment from one person to another person. Are you also working in terms of using the same rails of payment to provide credit access to the people who, who do not have that easy access to credit?
There are 2-3 programs that we are working on. One program is for merchants, where these merchants who are connected to us, basis their history with us, we give them capital, and that capital is used for basically funding their working capital. One. Okay. There is another program that we started in southern India, and that was typically aimed at again those merchants who were transacting with us, but ideally giving them short-term loans for 6 months, 12 months kind of a tenure, and for up to a certain value. And those loans were extensions of Mudra and these kind of loans that the government had launched. And one latest program that we have embarked upon is a lending arrangement specifically for the last mile consumer. Now this consumer is typically the maid who comes to my house, or the taxi driver or the auto driver, the last mile, whether he is in urban India, whether he is in rural India. If he has some kind of if he has some kind of a digital payment track record, then basis that consistent track record, there can be some kind of lending arrangements that can be done. So these programs have started. USAID and CGAP have played a very good role in that.
Understood. Thank you for that. And I think now the time is quite perfect to invite about maybe 2 to 3 questions from the audience. When you're asking your question, please identify yourself. Please ask a question. Don't make an observation. And also state to which person on the panel you would like to direct the question to.
Before we actually get into the Q&A kind of thing, I have one more point to make.
Sure, definitely, George.
See, the other thing that's actually going to also, additionally help drive adoption of all kinds of digital technologies is the transaction fee that's being charged.
Right.
Keep that as low as possible. Rather than a percentage, make it a fixed fee kind of an approach.
Understood.
Meaning this is just a thought, but that is also going to be able to actually make sure that the smaller merchants will be able to understand what this is all about, and also be open to accepting all the digital changes.
Absolutely.
So yes, I would like to make a quick point on that, and I would like to cite an example of my senior Anand Bajaj, who left Yes Bank, was the CIO of Yes Bank. He left Yes Bank to start his own fintech company. Okay, and the concept dwells from the fact that there is an interchange or a MDR that the merchant pays essentially, and the consumer at some point of time ends up bearing that. So the concept is hyperlocal payments on a subscription model, where this entire MDR goes for a toss, and there is a subscription-based model where there is a hyperlocal environment. There are goods that can be ordered through a simple mobile app, payments that happen through a mobile app with an interface of UPI. So it can be Vaibhav at SBI, and at the back end you can have 4-5 accounts. A merchant can pull or you can push sitting in the comfort of your house and get it delivered. You don't have to bother where the pharmacy guy is getting 10 phone calls, so he's not going to pick up the phone call.
So he's going to change the paradigm of the business.
There are use cases, dime a dozen that have started in India, and this is the right time to be in fintech and digital.
Very heartening to note that. Now to the audience, any questions, please? Yeah. So can somebody pass on the mic to this gentleman?
My question is, when we are talking about the entire thing, the digital money concept, so maybe it's true for maybe the top strata who are dealing, maybe it's a good amount of money and using the internet.
Right.
But when we just go down, right, then we are talking about the subsidy wala or the taxi wala payments. So can you just elaborate, see, because I'm not able to see any incentive why I should take the digital money instead of the cash. Because see, every day I have to roll out, I have to pay something. Because see, suppose volume is 1,000 rupees, so after then again I just keep 100 rupees profit and then 900 rupees I have to give. So this is the entire ecosystem. And again, suppose I want to pay something, because there is a transaction cost, so who will bear? See, if I am paying something rupees, why I will pay? I will pay only 100 rupees. Why I will give more money in the digital? And why I will receive, instead of 199 rupees, why I will pay cost for this? So then who will bear the cost? This is I'm not able to understand.
So to whom is the question?
See, anybody.
So basically you're saying that there are two aspects in terms of why should I accept digital payment and why not cash? And who will bear the burden of the transaction fee in the process? Anybody?
I have a point to make here. From a small merchant perspective, you said Sabziwala or something that entire chain has to get into this digital platform. If it does not, then it's only one point that's the last mile that you're having a digital facility. The rest of it is going to be cash. It really doesn't serve the purpose. So the point is that Sabziwala buys from a distributor or a person who amalgamates all the vegetables. That guy buys it from maybe a mandi, whatever, a larger distributor, so on and so forth. So everything down the chain, is something that needs to get onto that. The second point is, I think, if you're going to keep the transaction fee low, interchange or MDR or whatever it is, keep it really low, it's actually going to help because people will say, "Okay, 50 paisa gaya na, so it is okay, I can bear that cost of that 50 rupees, 50 paise or that 1 rupee." Rather than saying that, "Okay, it is going to be a percentage of your transaction and, all of those things." So that is definitely going to be, something that will help the adoption. Literacy is an absolute must, without a doubt. Right now, nobody has done it.
Sure. And also in terms of, I was looking at one research report where they did a sample survey of people that you're talking about. So they've identified in terms of what are the key motivators to accept digital as against cash. One is in terms of, they said, handling cash is difficult, small change is difficult, and the biggest problem is how do you identify counterfeit notes in a cash transaction? So these were the three motivators. What was the deterrent? As you rightly pointed out, the deterrent was the transaction fee. So if you bring down the transaction fee, I think more and more people will jump onto that bandwagon. Yes?
I just want to add, so what you have said is correct, and we cannot wait for the whole ecosystem to get digitized so that, because if someone is interested to go for an electronic method, mode of accepting transaction, but the other in the ecosystems are not accepting that, then he get demotivated. So, and we have been working on these practical issues, and I think there is no direct answer or direct solution, only cost is not the factor. So just wait for some time. We have come up with a model, we have been speaking to a lot of banks to solve this problem, and hopefully in next few months we will be launching this.
So you should be watching Saha closely to see what is the next secret or the secret sauce that they're going to reveal. Any more questions from the audience? Okay, I take it as no. So initially, I played the role of Nostradamus, took you on a time machine. Now I'll give the opportunity to our panelists to play the role of Nostradamus. If you have to play the role of Nostradamus, what is one thing? Answer is accepted only in one word or two words. What are those one or two things that will help India to dislodge cash as an emperor and make digital as an emperor?
My answer is UPI.
UPI.
Strict law by the government. Strict law.
Maybe you can
I think the three words into one word's jam.
Right.
Jan-Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile.
Jan-Dhan, Aadhaar, the jam trinity. You feel that it's jam trinity. Yes, sir.
Yeah, strict law by government to make a upper ceiling for cash transaction. I think there is the only option left.
Okay. Ranjit?
I think UPI.
UPI and Viber.
So fintech disruptions clubbed with effective change management.
Right. So thank you. Thank you for sharing those insights. And initially I spoke about two trends in my time machine. One was making payment through a smile. It is called as gesture-based payments. And the second one, not even making any payment because somebody else is managing the cash. So I said, it was like my Nostradamus predictions. And just in case if those things come true, and if I survive, please tell everyone that IP belongs to me and not to them. Thank you so much. I think the organizers have to tell us what is to be done next. Maybe they've gone to develop a digital app to collect the payments. Okay. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Rahul. I'm from Pandara. We are a marketplace lender. A lot of the discussion revolved around merchants at one end of the transaction. And as the world evolves, we are moving towards more peer-to-peer transaction. The West has tasted it and
Right.
saw a lot of success. India is at the cusp of breaking free proliferation of marketplace lending. RBI doesn't seem to be very conducive when it comes to regulation. How do you, the leaders see this space would be evolving when it comes to let the payments and transaction go through?
Who would like to take this? Ranjit.
I think as far as the regulators are concerned, it's better that they are cautious rather than repent later on. And we have seen the adaptability from RBI over the period of time. So I don't see it as a hindrance, honestly. It's a good thing that we are kept in check from time to time. And it evolves as we evolve around. So personally, I do not see it as a hindrance, and I welcome the stand taken by RBI. But surely they also have adapted to different changes over the period of time, increasing the wallet limits, increasing the transaction limits. So I don't see it as a hindrance.
Wallet says next.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's a question from this gentleman.
So why don't you see for the Aadhaar, so a little bit deviating from the...
Sure.
Yeah, sure. You're welcome.
So this is primarily the seeding practice of Aadhaar, as well as the modification, updation and all. So I don't see any innovation in your app side where a user can have download an Aadhaar app and where he can update his mobile number, his email ID, even he can do some OTP authentication quickly. It is happening, but I'm getting everywhere a lot of complaint, people are not. So this initiative, you have to take this initiative because at least you have a 300 million user group who is pretty dynamic and, plastic.
So to answer that, I would like to, inform all of you that we are aware of your concern, Currently, we have multiple ways of update, like somebody wants to update online, address, name, minor corrections. He can do it online, completely online through OTP-based transaction. The mandatory thing is that his mobile should have been registered. Then there are, centers, we call it Aadhaar Kendras across countries. Like in Maharashtra, we have around 3,000 centers. But recently, one more, as you pointed out, very convenient and latest update facility have been rolled out, which we call it Update Client Lite, which can be, which is real time. And this is API based, so all the users, be it financial, banking, or government, whosoever has, got the authorization to use Aadhaar authentication platform, this API is being open to them. Wherein, if some resident walks in and suppose he gives Aadhaar, and let's say a service provider finds that there are some fields which needs to be updated. Let's say, for example, his mobile is not updated. He himself, means the service provider, will have facility through that UCL, through the same application, that he will be instantly able to update any of his, demographic and mobile plus email fields. So this facility is being now used by all the, so far there were agencies who were enrolling the resident. They were having facility to update the demographic or biometric fields. Right. But now we have extended it to the users, the service providers, the institutions who have got the authentication facility. So we have clubbed the authentication application with the update client lite, and where the good feature is it is instantaneous, means using the fingerprint authentication, your mobile number will get updated within 5 to 10 minutes, and then subsequently you can use it for the actual transactions like KYC or eKYC. So this facility is already, it has been rolled out. Only thing is that awareness and adoptability and rollout that we'll be driving.
Interesting. Thank you. So in your absence, the panel unanimously decided from the next session onwards, you will accept payment digitally and give 50% cash back to all the sponsors. I was just joking. Yes, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajesh, for wonderfully moderating the session. Thank you, eminent panelists. So, with here, we end this session on a very good conclusion by the moderator himself. I request Mr. Rajesh to present mementos to our key panelists. To start with Mr. George Verghese, Senior Vice President of VSoft Technologies. A round of applause, please. Mr. Ranjit Oak, President and Chief Operating Officer of My Mobile Payments Limited, Money on Mobile. Mr. KP Saha, Managing Director of Sanresa Technologies. Mr. Vaibhav Joshi, Senior Vice President of Digital Banking, Yes Bank Limited. Mr. Rajneesh Khare, Head of Digital, sorry, he's not here. Mr. Prashant Singh, he's Assistant Director General of UIDI. Round of applause for. I now request Mr. Singh to present a memento to our session moderator, Mr. Rajesh. Thank you so much, Mr. Rajesh. A round of applause for him. And a group photo is requested with the moderator and the key panelists. Just after that, there's a technology presentation. We'll request for a 10 minutes of presentation by Mr. Vivek Khandelwal. Thank you so much, sir. Again, a round of applause for speakers and moderator of this session.